The Alto Knights is a new Warner Brothers movie directed by the 82-year-old Sam Levinson and starring Robert De Niro, who is also in his 80s. It's based on a script by Goodfellas scribe Nicholas Pileggi, who is 92 years old. The movie follows Robert De Niro in dual roles as Frank Costello and Vito Genovese, two rival mobsters in 50s and 60s New York City. The movie follows their rivalry as the two old men fight to control all of New York City, and it's pretty much just about that. There are very little moments in here that are interesting, and no matter what people are saying about this gangster genre being tired, which it is, this is objectively not a good movie. There are great gangster films out there, but more recently, it's felt like the genre has kind of been done to death. Like, after the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it just felt like we kind of told all the great gangster stories. And occasionally there are a good few. I enjoyed movies from the past 10 years. Like, I remember when Black Mass came out 10 years ago with Johnny Depp as Whitey Bulger. I thought that was pretty good, but none of them are, like, great. The Irishman feels like the last true great mob movie, and this film is heavily indebted to that one. In fact, this feels like a dollar store ripoff of The Irishman, coming right down to depicting aging mobsters and starring a legend of the genre in Robert De Niro. Where The Irishman had major heavy hitters like Harvey Keitel, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, and Robert De Niro, it was a stacked film with excellent editing, cinematography, a great score, great production design, and an excellent director in Martin Scorsese, who still made a 3.5-hour movie without an intermission fly by. It was tense, it was funny, it was edited perfectly with that same energy he brings to Goodfellas, combining tension with hilarious moments. The movie presented here, The Alto Knights, is such a mishmash of different forms and concepts. It's honestly unbearable to watch. I rarely walk out of movies. I hate to leave a movie. I go to the movie theater to enjoy a film, to be immersed. But I did leave this film after about an hour and 25 minutes, simply because nothing was happening and I was bored out of my fucking mind. I went to go watch the final 20 minutes of Princess Mononoke in IMAX, and I'm happy I did that. Simply because this movie just sucked. I mean, I looked up what happens in the plot on Wikipedia, and it's insane how anticlimactic it appears to end. Like most movies, you get the sense that it's not going to be an interesting end because nothing's been interesting up to a certain point. And we're going to get to the anticlimactic ending because this whole movie does the opposite of what narrative genre should do, which is push an interesting plot forward. This is mostly just a movie made up of conversations and dialogues that don't increase the stakes a lot or create tension. This is just old men slowly mulling over a 60-year history between two guys. This is senior citizen core, as one reviewer described it, and it builds up to nothing. It's literally like watching two old men at a restaurant talking about their greatest hits. They don't show you any of them. They just talk about them. And that's what's so boring. And I also saw this movie at 10:35 on a Tuesday night, which might have contributed to why I was like, I'm just leaving, I'm bored. But I did want to experience this film in a theater, and it's heading out of theaters this Thursday, actually, when the Minecraft movie arrives. I'm very sure this is not going to be playing in many theaters due to its disastrous box office. And the recipe for this movie's box office makes sense when you look at the numbers. The gangster genre has been dead for years. It's a known fact. And if you look at a list of the top 25 gangster movies in recent years, you'll see Guy Ritchie movies, the John Wick films, a lot of action-heavy movies. But the gangster genre that was popularized with Martin Scorsese movies feels dead. And it really does feel like The Irishman was the magnum opus of that genre. It's just literally everything that's had to be said about that genre has been said. Men doing a dangerous job, the pros and cons, the pains and joys, and found family, the rise and fall, and great dopamine-filled beginnings and tragic endings. There's so much that's been explored. It would be a major task for the Alto Knights to breathe new life into the genre, and it doesn't do that at all. It could have had its own perspective, and that would be one thing, but the way the movie tells its story, the way it's structured, it's just so boring. See, this film immediately is flawed because it doesn't take part during any of the interesting parts of the main characters' lives. Both of the guys, Frank Costello and Vito Genovese, who I knew very little about except that they were mafia figures, don't do anything interesting in the movie. They're both either retired or want to be, and the movie is just about them settling their disputes. It's not like about the prime time of their gangster years. Costello, played by De Niro, is more of the calm, thoughtful gangster. He's more like a businessman. He tries to work things out, find a solution, and he wants to take care of his wife and retire peacefully, instead of resorting to violence, unlike his counterpart Vito Genovese, who's also played by Robert De Niro, who's a hot-headed gangster and will kill people. He'll strangle someone on a roof and not leave witnesses if it means getting the job done. Costello's more of a guy who wants to talk things out. And these two mob heads who actually were best friends growing up, coming together and clashing over power grab, is the centerpiece of the movie. And honestly, on paper, it sounds interesting. It just sucks the story's not interesting at all. The way it's told is so bland. There's very little action to punctuate the story. These guys are also really old. Unlike The Irishman, which, had shoddy CGI to show us them young, it still showed us these guys in their youths, and as a result, it gave a more full picture to the story. So you could kind of really feel who they were as characters and people, and you can see the full picture. It really felt like a chronicle of life and death that came full circle. The Alto Nights begins at the very end. So much of the beginning is told in this really weird documentary-style format, which is extremely odd and took me out of the movie, where Robert De Niro, who's playing Costello, is recounting his youth as if he's talking to a documentary interviewer. It's just such an odd route to go. Why not show flashbacks? They're like brief snippets, probably like 10-second scenes where we see them as kids or teenagers growing up and starting out their lives as gangsters, and it just doesn't give us enough information. I don't really like flashbacks, but they could have even had a cold 10 to 20 minute opening just showing them growing up as kids, which would be so much more powerful than De Niro just like recounting this as if he's talking to a documentary. That just feels like exposition. It feels forced. There's nothing at all inherently cinematic about so much of the beginning of this movie. And it's the major issue with the whole picture. I was thinking the whole time, this could be a really good gangster movie, but it's missing all of the interesting stuff. Pilecki, who wrote Goodfellas and wrote this at 92 years old, and wrote a movie that feels like it came from a guy who's 92. It's just old people talking. Really, that's it. By the time we're an hour and a half in, this is when I decided to leave. They're introducing new characters, but not to do anything interesting. Like De Niro's trying to get some senator or someone on his side to testify against Genovese, but like the whole movie is just this extremely slow and drawn out gang war. But like there's no tension. It's like playing telephone in a way. You see these guys fight and bicker and maybe someone gets shot or strangled, but these moments are so few and far between, they're forgettable. And the choice to make De Niro, played by both Genovese and Costello, honestly itself is so gimmicky and distracting at times, I forgot which character was which. And that might be the reason to watch this film solely in the first place. It's certainly why I went to see it. And it almost could work since they're supposed to be these best friends, but it just feels like this drawn-out pale imitation or parody of the gangster genre. It's just so uninteresting. And I'll tell you this because I didn't stay for the ending, but reading what the climax is about made me realize, like, Jesus, this movie was never going to be good. You can greenlight a gangster film, but you need it to always feel like this is going to be fucking awesome. Like, damn, this is a powerhouse of a movie I'm going to think about for years to come. The Irishman is that because it has action, great editing, great characters, amazing dialogue, and structure, and quotable moments. And the last hour is just this somber reflection and examination of an old man's life that's perfectly in tandem with the first half. This movie, The Alto Nights, is just entirely somber, geriatric, slow, so drawn the fuck out. And apparently, from what I read on Wikipedia, the ending doesn't even have this big gangster ending or a shootout or any action at all. It's just Costello taking his sweet time to get to a meeting so Genovese will get arrested. And the film literally ends with these old men waddling out of their hiding spot into their car so the police can raid their secret club, and they end up in trouble. Like, that's the ending. Can you think of a more lame ending for a feature film? That's like how you end the third episode of a gangster TV show, not a feature film. It just feels like if they had built more of this around these guys when they were younger, you would actually have the meat of the story that you wanted. Instead, the meat, which is really just Robert De Niro versus Robert De Niro, doesn't work at all because you don't really know the history between these two guys. You know it, but like it's all told to you, never shown, which is the worst thing a movie could do. And on top of that, it's just so boringly directed and flat looking. There's nothing interesting or cinematic about this. I keep bringing up The Irishman, but The Irishman is a perfect gangster movie. It looks amazing. The editing for Martin Scorsese, who made the movie in his 70s, is great. It's so engaging, and they have these long tracking shots and a beautiful score. It's just amazing. So this is really just a total letdown when you think of the great gangster films, especially from the guys who are attached to this movie, like De Niro and Pileggi. They've done so much better stuff. Just that this is a Warner Brothers gangster film doesn't, make it great. It just feels like a shitty movie. So let me know what you guys think if you saw it. I don't recommend seeing it. It's one of the very few movies I walked out of. So let me know what you guys think of my review. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.